short room. I'm a scientific aggregator. I work on dengue and Divinagracia. The Divinagracia situation was actually born from here, okay, in 2016. And I was in contact with Professor Halstead, who testified before the Senate for 18 months in all. I gave a presentation here on Divinagracia regarding papaya leaf juice. Many of you took the papaya leaf juice. The action of papaya is a mechanism. It's not a cure in and of itself. We have microbes in our mouth. And what happens is that when you take papaya leaf juice and you put it in your mouth, it causes the microbes to vibrate, hypervibrate, artificially at a very high rate. When something vibrates in your body, white blood cells convert to something called macrophages. Macrophages enter it and grab anything that's vibrating. They bring it in and then they neutralize it. They break it down into fragments. It happens in the bloodstream. It happens in the woman's uterus with the sperm. It is a universal process. Okay? When you put it on your skin, it causes the bacteria to vibrate. White blood cells perceive that as heat, and they rush to the surface of the skin and hydrate whatever's in between. Now, in Africa, what they do is they smoke the leaf.
What is that? Describe it. What is that?
This is papaya leaf.
Papaya. Crushed.
Okay.
Crushed.
It's after we juiced it. Okay, then we take the pulp and we freeze the pulp.
It's raw.
Yeah, everything's raw. Anytime you heat something, it causes the molecules to vibrate, hyper vibrate. And these molecules will exit the cell. Okay, it's a degrading process. So you want to freeze things so that it locks the molecules in place. That's why you freeze meat, you freeze all different things. You do glass freezing and all the other stuff. Now, we have different delivery devices to be used. We can take something in a pill, we can take something in a liquid, all these different things. But the lungs are different. The lungs, the delivery device is smoke. So when you smoke the papaya leaf and you bring it into your lungs, you have villi, okay? And you bring it into your lungs and you go like this, and you push it through. It will cause all of the bacteria and microbes to vibrate. Is there a phone? It causes all the bacteria to vibrate in the lungs. White blood cells are powerless but to enter into the lungs, envelop these microbes, and break them down. Okay? It works. Okay? Now, whether it works with this virus, I don't know yet. But every single ingestion that I've had, I've taken this, and it's neutralized. Phlegm comes up and all of it. Now, I just want to...
Okay, the connection with the coronavirus.
Viruses don't respond to antibiotics. It's a different mechanism. But viruses will be killed by macrophages. So if you can bring macrophages into the lungs, they will envelop the virus. They have no choice but to do so. It automatically vibrates it. It is a mechanism. Okay, now, this is Mama Roger. Roger, come here. I want you to tell him. Roger had asthma. He had an inhaler. Okay, he's at my place, and I see the inhaler, and I said, what's with the inhaler? It's asthma. Go ahead, explain it to Alex. I'll explain for Reg.
Hello, good morning. Ay, kaputo po sa tao ng papaya na nagpapakit sa atin. Kasi ako isa ako sa...
Gamitin mo, Mike.
Nasubukan ko na po yung sa asma, saka gout. Ang ginawa ko dito, ininom ko to na walang ng tubig. Kaso yung lasa niya medyo mapait na iba-aboy. Tapos yung para sa asma, yung dry papaya leaves. Susunugin mo yung i-smoke mo siya. So sa awa ng Diyos, mula nun wala na akong harap.
So that's for asthma.
Opo.
Asthma. How about coronavirus? Sure.
Thank you.
This is the technology you want to export to China. If they will listen to you, okay?
the theory that I have, that I've created, is the theory of artificial hypervibration. It says that if we can artificially vibrate these things, it will call in the natural defenses, which are white blood cells and microphages, and neutralize them. It works. This thing that's going out is heading out there exponentially, like this. And it's really serious. The other issue is this. I've been in conversation on Facebook with Rafi Aluna, and he asked about, he said something about temperature. And then I did some research for him. And I found papers that show that the SARS coronavirus does not prosper well in high humidity and high heat. That's why the SARS virus never went much below China into Thailand and those other areas. So the odds of it being here, if that falls true for the same virus, that we are not so much at risk, but cold weather climates are very much at risk for this to happen.
Of course, the mortality rate in the SARS virus is higher than the coronavirus.
I don't know. This thing is so pressing, and it's heading out so fast, and it may have been hidden. I'm seeing reports that it's way more than what it would be. This is not a good thing for the world. Okay?
What is your proposal? To test this out? You want to test this out or what?
My friend here,
Yeah.
actually, he is the godson of my father-in-law. Okay, who I met here in
That
general.
means to say he's your cousin-in-law.
I don't know what the relationship is, but he grows papaya. Okay, and Nina LaSala grows papaya, and Toto Barcelona knows everyone in papaya. Okay, I've been screaming about papaya. Ernie wants to create jobs.
Well, if this works, it can change the world. It can change the world if it works. How do we get to that stage to prove it?
You take the leaves, you grind them, and you give them. What I need is all of you guys are big shots, okay? Get me a meeting with the Chinese embassy on behalf of our group, okay? And let me present this as soon as possible and talk to them, okay? Let's talk to them. Multinational, let's talk to them, okay? Enough. You smoke this, it's easy. Now, I have a method for babies and for elderly and things like that.
We belong to the earlier.
You take them and you bring them into a bathroom. You close the door so it's a closed space. And then someone smokes and blows smoke like a chimney, and then the children will breathe it in. It's an old method in Africa, well known in literature and everything else. But this is really a deal breaker, this corona thing. And I need help. And if this group is worth anything, okay, they can get me a meeting with the Chinese embassy to talk.
Okay, maybe after the session you can convince us a little bit more after the session because we are out of time.
No, I understand.
Okay.
And his asthma was cured because it's bacteriological in nature, his asthma. Just
but
like
asthma is different from the coronavirus.
His asthma was bacteriologically based. Okay? They found that H. pylori was a bacteria that was the cause of most ulcers. Okay? And so antibiotics did this. So what this does is it kills the underlying bacteria in the lungs and got rid of it. He's had an inhaler his whole life.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting our organization to be the speaker in your forum today. It was great coordinating with Ms. Bernadette Yap. And we were quite surprised that you tapped our organization to talk here with you. Well, before anything else, let me pass out our latest newsletter so you can have like a clear picture while I'm talking about my organization. You'll have a more clear picture of the work that we do, not just here in the Philippines, but internationally as well. So there might be some copies that are, that everybody can have a copy here. Thank you so much. So before I talk about the 100 for 5 challenge that we had with chefs, let me talk about our organization first. So my organization is an we are an international humanitarian organization, and we work across 50 countries. Yearly, we help around 14 million people all over the world. And our history, it dates back to 1979. Our very first mission was in Pakistan, and that was during the time, if you guys still remember, I still do remember this from my childhood, if anybody younger here, who watched Rambo 3. That was the day, that was the time when Russian forces invaded Afghanistan. And there was a lot of refugees going out from that country to the surrounding countries. And one of them was Pakistan. So we had our very first mission there. Actually, if you think about it, during that time, they estimated that around 3 million refugees escaped Afghanistan. Very similar to what's happening right now in Syria. Although plus 1 more million, because in Syria right now, around 4 million refugees have evacuated their own country, and we do have projects there as well. Here in the Philippines though, we've been here since the year 2000, so we've been here since for 19 years. And if you flip over the second page, that is where the areas of intervention as of 2018 and 2019 are. So the one, if you can see the Philippine map, and the blue ones are where most of are the project areas that we have. And, well, our name, Action Against Hunger, it says it all, but we're really concerned is what we consider the extreme form of hunger that should be addressed here in the Philippines, which is malnutrition. So malnutrition, and as business leaders, I would like to state that malnutrition should really be concerning, because last year actually the DOH along with UNICEF, they came up with a release with a number that the Philippines was losing 220 million pesos every year due to malnutrition. How? Well, let me explain. So malnutrition, there's 2 types of malnutrition. One is called wasting, or low weight for height, and one is called stunting, low height for age. According to the Food Nutrition Research Institute of the Philippines, they do a nutrition survey every 2 to 3 years, the last of which was in 2015. They found out that 7.1% of children below the age of 5 is wasted. Seems like a low number, 7.1%. But actually it's quite high. For a developing nation, it should be below 3%. But the big number here really is on stunting, or what's also called chronic malnutrition. 33.4%, or 1 out of 3 child under the age of 5 in the Philippines is stunted. And this is a total of around 4 million children suffering from malnutrition. So let me repeat that again. 1 out of 3 child is stunted here in the Philippines. So stunting or chronic malnutrition is something that we actually see every day. This is when we see a child physically, I mean, what you will see physically is that just go to a public school, for example, and you compare it to a private school. Because I've been to both. I went to public school when I was in elementary, and I went to private school when I was in high school, and went to public school back again during college. But I do see the dichotomy between the two, is that the average height of public school students are certainly lower. And you see a lot of students who are much lower than the average size. So this is what we see, this is what we are seeing through our naked eye. But they look normal, except that they are just lower in height.
That's why we cannot produce good basketball players.
That's one reason as well. One reason as well, Mr. Chairman. And before you go to the genetics, that it could be genetics. It's not. Because it's never been proven that genetics plays a part on what you will be when you, for example, just to give you an example, my dad is 5'6", my mom is 5'2", I'm 5'11". Where did that come from? So it's not only genetics, it's also your upbringing. But it has been proven that malnutrition at a young age will affect your development. So one of those development is the physical development, which is the stomach. What is much worse is what we don't see through the naked eye, which is it will also affect the development of the bodily organs, and it will also affect the development of our brain, the cognitive. So what happens to a stunted child is that we have, before I go deeper into that, there's this what the scientists and physicians call the first 1,000 days. So sometime between the second or third month of conception until 2 years old. This is the first 1,000 days. This is very important. This is where the building blocks of a person's life in the future develops, the first 1,000 days, from womb until 2 years old. If at any point that child is affected by malnutrition and it's not treated properly, the effects would be irreversible. So this is a picture of two children. On to your left would be normal, and then to the right is a malnourished child. A brain scan of two children. So you can see the differences between brain size. This also equates to brain capacity. The cognitive part. So you can see that the malnourished child will be more challenged. So in practical terms, what does this mean? This child will not die. He will grow up normal. No, not normal, but shorter than the average Filipino. And he will grow up more sickly. More sickly, so he will be missing school. Also, he will grow up challenged at school. He might not even finish school. So this will affect his whole life up to the point where he might not even get a proper job. As a taxpayer, all of us as taxpayers, this person is a burden. That's why we're losing 220 million every year because of this person, because he is not going to be contributing economically to the Philippines. Because more often than not, he will be a burden as well to our Medicare because he will be more sickly. And I cannot emphasize this, we have very high rate of malnutrition, 33.4%. So in order for us to improve this, things should be done. And what Action Against Hunger is doing is we have projects, we categorize our projects into 4 different parts. So we have projects in nutrition and health. I was talking to Mr. Verdunez earlier, and he was saying that he had connections with the government with regards to helping me out. We actually work with the government. We work in terms of, although we are an NGO, what we do in terms of working with the government, because we have to work within the system. So for example, in nutrition and health, what we do, we were part of the NNC, the National Nutrition Council, where we were one of the creators, along with other NGOs, of guidelines on treating SAM, severe acute malnutrition. It was a success. The DOH released the guidelines on how to screen and treat severe acute malnutrition. Problem: it did not go down to the LGU level. So one of our things that we do is that when we go to an area, we know that we're not going to be there forever. So what we do is that we build the capacity of the people in that area. So we were the ones, we went to the LGU, for example, of Davao in 2013, and then we really lobbied to have this SAB be implemented. We were the ones who trained the medical doctor of the LGU, at the barangay level, their their barangay health worker. We were the ones who trained them in our nutrition and health projects on the properly screening and the guidelines of malnutrition. We actually were quite successful that it became an executive order to use that SAM guidelines. One of the things that also you might not think when you think of the Philippines is to have a picture like this, for example. So this was in our project in Zamboanga at the onset of, if you remember the siege in Zamboanga in 2013. So Jojo, at 8 months old, only weighed 3 kilos, severely dehydrated and had acute malnutrition. I'd like to say that first, that I'd like to be clear that we don't do feeding programs. That is not what we do. What we do is a very specific form of treatment, which is in the form of ready-to-use therapeutic food. I don't have a sample with me, but ready-to-use therapeutic food is peanut-based, very nutritious, 500 calories in 1 sachet. The consistency and taste of it is like peanut butter. With this treatment, this is Jojo after 2 weeks, and this is Jojo after 2 months of continuous treatment. So, we're not the only NGO that uses this. Our other donors, UNICEF, WFP, also uses ready-to-use therapeutic food. Or the brand name is Plumpina, because it's very effective, and the best part about this is that you don't mix it with anything. It is good as it is. You just open the sachet, the child will eat it, and there's no mixing. You can put it in the bread for palaman, but as it is good to eat straight from the sachet. And that is very important because in the areas where we work in, we go straight to the barangay. We often, more than anything else, we find that the water or the water system in a certain area is not potable. So we test the water and we see that the water source that they have is not properly maintained. So we don't want to, just let me get back a little. In the 1990s, we developed a treatment for malnutrition, which was in powdered milk form. And the thing was that we had to mix that with water. So the reason why this is revolutionary is because it doesn't need any water. Because if you had to mix it with water, we cannot use the one in the barangay because it's not potable. So we had to administer that in the hospital. And unfortunately, in the areas where we work in, hospitals in the provinces are few and far between. So this one, what we do is we give the treatment to the families, 1 week supply first. The rest we give to the their barangay health worker or the barangay captain. But we do monitoring on a weekly basis. But in case we get late, we go. They can get their supply from their.
Is that per day or per meal?
It's 3 times a day. As a supplement.
How much is a sachet?
1 sachet would cost roughly around 20 pesos. We don't manufacture it. We actually buy it from somebody else.
20 pesos. That's retail.
Yes, 60 pesos for a day's treatment.
Is that a controlled experiment? What is your comparison? You have a comparison of the one who did take it versus the one who took it?
We do have a paper on that in terms of ready-to-use therapy. But this is more. We don't have a comparison because the treatment was proven to work. This one was just our lessons learned and more on a documentation of the project we had in Davao in 2013. In Zamboanga, 2013. This was in an evacuation camp for the people who were affected during the Zamboanga siege.
This is part of the allowance given to family, poor family. You don't buy it out of that.
No, we don't. We're an NGO. We do work with the government, but what we always emphasize is that we should have direct access to the beneficiaries, to the people. We work with the system, but because we have to coordinate with the LGU, And of course, in the areas where we work in, which is you have to coordinate with the Philippine Army to go to these areas, in Maguindanao, for example, we are still very independent. So it's not connected to the forest. I was talking about water. One of the things that we work in is also in water sanitation and hygiene, because good nutrition is not just about good food. It's also about good sanitation, potable water, because if you get sick, I mean, the second leading cause of deaths for children all over the world under the age of 5 is still diarrhea. So water is very important. Actually, most of our projects here in the Philippines is centered towards wash. And what we do is that we build toilets, we repair the water system. Actually, if you read the newsletter, in Marawi, we are working with Task Force Bawal Marawi in terms of rebuilding, helping them rebuild the water system which was damaged during the siege. Also, we have projects in food security and livelihoods. Of course, one of the leading causes of hunger here in the Philippines is poverty. So you can read up more on that in our newsletter at the middle page. But what we also emphasize here, being a country which will be one of the countries that is affected by climate change, we respond to emergencies. Typhoons, the recent volcanic eruption in Taal, we respond to those. And we are ready to deploy a team to assess the humanitarian needs of the people within 24 to 72 hours. But of course, here in the Philippines, emergencies are not only because of natural disasters, but it could be because also of unrest. So during the Marawi siege, if you still remember during that time, it was during the month of Ramadan. The violence started on May 23. We were already there 2 days after on May 25 to do an assessment of the people leaving their homes for safety. So just to give you just a recap on what occurred during the siege, 95% of the city evacuated. 360,000 people fled their homes. And I was there during the very first around July, the first months of the siege. I went to an area where of course you see, usually they feature the people in the evacuation areas in the big gym, right? But actually around 92% of the people were home-based evacuees. Home-based evacuees are people who are living with their relatives, with their friends. Because actually, diba, first thing that you would think of when you leave your homes is that you would go to your friends and families to seek shelter. I went to one such shelter. This person, because it was the month of Ramadan, what happens is that they stock up a lot of food. This person stocked up a lot of food for the feast during the nighttime, because they fast during the day and they have a little feast during night to load up for the rest of the day. So and he also owned like this big. Actually, he had a warehouse, a rice warehouse, parang some 3/4 of this size, and it was open on the side. But what happened? This person had a big family from Marawi. It was in an area in Piagapao. It was a town near Marawi, and he had a lot of family go to him, evacuating the city to go to him and live with him. So he put them in this makeshift evacuation center / warehouse. Imagine 50 people, 3/4 of the size of this room, living together in this room for around 5 months. So when I went there, one of the first things that, when he said, during the first 2 weeks, I could help provide for the evacuees on my own because I had adequate stocks. But after that, it was very hard. So they had to depend on food packs from the TSWD. Unfortunately, this particular area in Piagapao, this barangay, is a bit far from the center, so minsan delayed. And the worst thing that I heard was that they were sometimes eating just one big meal a day. I mean, the evacuees were eating just one big meal a day, and then a snack in the afternoon. So one of the things that we gave them were food packs. So food packs, this is not feeding because, of course, it's a food pack that they cook themselves. And this confirms to the kilocalorie intake that the person should need on a daily basis of 2,150 calories. And it's not the usual food pack that will last just 1 week. This will last an average family of 5, 1 month. And it has munggo, itlog. Sometimes we actually have fresh produce if it's available, pineapple, fresh squash. But I'd like to emphasize it does not have pancit canton, which is not very healthy. Although we cannot do away with the canned goods. But we can canned goods, of course, they don't have refrigeration. But we make this will last an average family again of 5, 1 month.
1 month?
1 month. Average Filipino size of 5. Although I have to admit the average size of the evacuees in the south is more than 5 normally. Actually the average family would be around 6. But we make sure because it's for the whole Philippines, this ready packs is good for an average family of 5. For them maybe around 3 weeks. But for us, it will be last 1 month.
What's the value of the pack? How much is it?
I don't have it with me, but I'll
Approximately, give me an idea.
approximately I would say it would be around, including logistics and personnel, I think it would be around 8,000 pesos more or less.
8,000.
8,000.
For a month.
Well, something I'd like just to show you. You can see the donors that we have in our newsletter there. One of our donors is our longest relationship with UNICEF. We have also one of our donors is the EU, the European Union, USAID, KNH. And because the reason why these donors keep going to us in terms of funding our projects is because we're very transparent with the money that we get. 84.5% of the money we get goes directly to the projects, 5.9 to admin, and of course 9.6 to fundraising in order for us to continue what we do. But the bulk of the money really goes to the projects, and you can actually do your due diligence and just check up on us on numerous charity evaluators available online. Most prominent, of course, is Charity Navigator and GuideStar. So I was invited. I hope that explains the work that we do here in the Philippines. So before I proceed to Love Food, Give Food, is there any questions? Yes, Ms. Yeah.
My question is, since you give them ready-to-eat food, how are you able to sustain it after?
You mean the treatment, the ready-to-use,
Yeah.
what do you mean in terms of sustaining?
Baby.
On their own.
On their own.
When you leave, how are you ensure that they will still have nutritious meals?
Okay, so that is one of the things that's where our livelihood projects enter. So it's really different for every family or for every situation, because we have we have a cash for work program that we initiate. We are one of the. Sometimes you can give all the goods that you need, that a person might need, but they may still need cash. So one of the things that we did, for example, that I'm witness to in Marawi is that there was, in Zamboanga, there was this old person who is adept in the art of making the banig, the traditional mats. And unfortunately, most of the people from her barangay or from the evacuation camp don't know that art. So what we did is we tapped that person in order to teach her fellow evacuees the art of making those mats, and then we linked them up with commercial outlets in order for them to sell those wares. So that's one of the things that we do in order for it to be more sustainable. When we're no longer there, how can they pull themselves up? So one of the things is, of course, livelihoods. And also one for our cash for work is that we would give them an amount. Depends on the donor on how much the amount is more often, but they would choose their own livelihood. And some would, the common livelihood that they would choose would also be sari-sari store. But we always try to, we don't just give them money right away. We train them, we build their capacity in doing business first. So, and then we try to dig in as to what is their, are their special talents in terms of business or livelihood or like a profession. So, sari-sari store is quite numerous. I have to tell you the truth because that's the most easiest thing that they can think of. And the next one would be like an eatery. But we've had, for example, beneficiaries who were blacksmiths before they left Iligan, before they left Marawi. And what they did with the money that we gave them was that they would buy their tools of trade again so that they can restart their livelihood of being blacksmiths. Or yung sa Zamboanga, a lot of them were fishermen. So what they did with the money that we gave them, they would rebuild their boats. So yes, for sustainability, because yeah, we know we're not there. We're not going to be there forever. One of the things that we do for sustainability is livelihoods and building the capacity of the people to fend for themselves. And also connect them with certain government programs as well, like 4Ps.
Yes, sir. Right.
I can verify what he's saying. I saw a documentary on Pumping Up by Anderson Cooper from 60 Minutes in like 2008, and it inspired me to a lot of the work that I'm doing now. It's for severe acute malnutrition, and for kids in refugee camps, it's really quite remarkable. And it's a powdered micronutrients that are put in with peanut butter and sugar, and the kids love it because it's got a sugary taste.
It's very palatable.
If this man can deliver pumping nut at 20 pesos, that's a miracle because it was $1 back then. So the ability to deliver it at 20 pesos.
That's per meal. Per meal, 3 times.
This is not really a meal thing. This is an intervention for wasting. Okay, these kids are they're bone like this, and this brings them right up. It saved huge numbers of lives in Africa and all. And it's actually what put me onto Moangai way back in 2008, 2009, because I was looking for something that could be done with. We experimented with liquid smoke in Moangai to make a cheese flavor, different things like that for it. But pumping that is really amazing and tremendous. And if this man is delivering it for 20 pesos, give him money. Really, give him money. It's not being wasted at all. So I congratulate him.
Thank you so much.
Should this thing start at the woman's conception?
Well, of course, conception is, I don't want to go into that because that's a big debate. Where is the start of life? Everyone is entitled to their own opinion on that. But scientists and physicians say between the 2nd and 3rd month of conception until 2 years old, that is really the building blocks of a person's life.
Remember one other thing. There's one other thing you should add to your repertoire. The smoke from indoor cooking pots. Okay? People are cooking indoors with cooking pots. It ends up being the 5th largest killer in the world, 5th or 6th largest killer in the world.
More than cigarette smoke?
Huh?
More than cigarette smoke.
Yeah, certainly. Certainly, because all of the poor people go out and they collect firewood and they put it in these canisters and they cook inside and the kids breathe it in. All that smoke stays in their lungs, and it's the 4th or 5th, it's the 5th or 6th leading killer in the world. So just the act of telling everyone to take their cooking pots outside of the house and cook out there is going to save a tremendous number of lives. And again, it's not necessarily the fact that they would die, but it leaves them open to susceptibility to all sorts of different illnesses and everything else. But add that to it. Read up on the cooking pot thing.
All right, yes.
We use copper. Okay, I developed a thing with copper where we can take any used cooking oil or oil, we put it in the copper, we put it on water, we pinch them, we light them, and you can use that. Some of the tribal people I work with are using it upland to cook, and it is smokeless, because if you use vegetable oil, it's smokeless and all. So consider that as well.
Thank you so much.
Okay,